Hey there friends, Marie here and welcome back to my channel. This time on my video I am sharing the Spellbinders sealed collection, and this is all about wax seals. Now I've done wax seals in the past. I have a collection of wax seals that I've had since I was in high school. I've got some vintage seals and I've always loved the look of wax seals, so I was really excited when I saw that Spellbinders was launching their own collection, and I'm giving you a look at some of the pieces that they have available on their website now. And a lot of the pieces that I have here are Christmas pieces, and I just think this is the best way to step up your crafting just a notch, add something really special to your Christmas cards this year, or maybe even your Christmas presents. I'm going to show you how you can use it on packages as well. But there are so many fun things in this collection. I'm just going to share a few of them with you today and show you and share with you a little bit about wax seals themselves. So here is the starter kit that Spellbinders has. If you get this kit, you are set to go. You'll get one wax seal and some wax, and it's a great all-in-one kit. So this would also make a great present this year, a Christmas present, if there is a crafter in your life who wants to get started with wax seals. If you grab this kit, you're ready to go. There's also a lot of other items in this collection, but this kit will get you started. So once you open it up, you take a look in the box, and there is that little silicone mat that you can work on. They've got this little spoon holder here, and you put that over a tea light, and I'll talk about that later. You also get your wax stamp. This is what you make your wax seal image with. It is a handle with that metal stamp on the bottom. The handle does screw off, and I will show you why later in the video, but basically it's for switching out different designs of stamps. You can use the same handle with a lot of different stamps if you choose to. This kit also comes with a little spoon, and this is what you melt your wax in. It goes on top of that spoon holder there. You put a little tea light candle underneath, and that is what heats up the wax to melt it, so that you can pour it onto your surface and then stamp it with the stamp. These are the little wax beads that you get with your kit. They are a really pretty gold. You throw a few of them in the spoon, you wait for it to heat up and melt, and then you do your wax stamping. So that's what's in the kit. So like I said, if you get the kit, you are good to go. You have everything you need to start your wax seals. The only thing you need to add is a tea light. So if you have some of these little tea light candles, you can get started with your wax seals, and they're really inexpensive. You can get them almost anywhere. So let's do some wax seal stamping. You want to light your candle, and then you put your little spoon holder right over your candle, and you put your spoon on so that your spoon can heat up and the wax can melt inside. And now you can just take a few of those wax beads and just throw them into your spoon there, and they are going to melt. It's kind of relaxing to watch the beads melt in there. It's kind of fun. The amount of beads that you're going to use is going to vary depending on how big your stamp is and what you're putting the wax on top of. If you're just doing an envelope, it might not take very much wax. If you are doing a package or putting it over ribbon or something, you might want a little bit more. So it's going to be a little bit of trial and error at first, figuring out how many beads and things you want. I've kind of found that with these Spellbinders stamps, 3 beads is about enough to make a really nice seal. And once you throw the beads in your spoon, they will slowly start to melt. You can see here I'm kind of tipping the spoon around, making sure all of those beads are completely melted. You do want your wax to be melted. If you have any chunks in there, you won't get a very good impression once you put your stamp into the wax. But once it's completely melted, you can take your spoon and pour it out. It's got a little spot on the side where it's got the little pouring side. I like to just pour it into one place. I don't, try to shape it too much. If you pour it right in the center, it will kind of just blob out into a nice circle for your stamp. And then you're just going to take your stamp and gently set it down right in the center of your wax, and it will kind of squish out to where it needs to be. If you're done with your candle, please make sure you blow it out, and do keep in mind that you are working with hot items here. You have an open flame, you have metal that you're heating up, and you have wax that is melted. So please be careful as you're using this, and a ventilated area works well too with this smoke and the fumes from the candle, but as long as you're mindful of all those things, you'll be fine. Now, once you have put your wax stamp into your wax, you just want to let it sit there for a while and cool before you pull off that stamp, and then you have a really fun wax seal. Now, to clean your spoon, I like to just take a baby wipe and wipe it out. And honestly, it works the best to clean your spoon when it's super hot, because then the wax is melted and you can wipe it all out. If it starts to cool, it's going to stick to the spoon and it's not going to be as easy to clean. So be very careful when you're doing this, but if you want to clean your spoon, clean it when it's hot, and then you'll get most of the wax out very easily. I'm doing another wax seal here, so you can see I'm just pouring it into a big puddle. Any of the little drips that are hanging on, I just kind of swirl it back in, but I don't try to shape it a whole lot. I find that if you just pour out into one spot, you get a nice circular puddle, and then once you place your stamp on top of it, it does squish out into a nice circle and you get a good impression. Now, when you're changing colors, there's a few ways that you can do this when you're changing your wax colors. I like to sometimes just throw another color in on top of whatever is left in my spoon, and that way you get sort of a marbled look with your wax. The other way to change your colors is to wipe it out like you saw me do, if you don't want any of that marbled effect or any of the swirls of colors. But it doesn't bother me to get a swirl of color because I think the wax seals look really cool that way. And when I'm using my stamps here that I'm playing with, it kind of goes with the theme. My kids this year for my birthday actually got me a set of Harry Potter wax seals. So I have one for each house of Hogwarts, and I have a few other ones too. So I'm using red here for Gryffindor. It's got a little swirl of the gold in it, and I think that just looked really fun. Now, I didn't want any of the gold or the red in this next seal, so I did wipe out that red wax when my spoon was very hot so that I could clean it out really well. And I'm getting that wax melting as I'm working with my other seals here. So there's the Gryffindor wax seal. I think that's really fun. And with these wax seals, they are slightly bigger than the Spellbinders ones. So I put another extra bead in there. So I'm using 4 beads for these seals. And that's just something you're going to have to gauge. Give yourself a few tries before you end up putting any wax seals on your projects so that you know exactly how many beads it's going to take and you get used to pouring it out and all those things. Now, you might notice that I have a toothpick on the side there. You can use a toothpick to kind of mix up your wax in the spoon if you feel you need to, but you really don't need to all that much. If you just let it sit, it will fully melt and you'll get a nice seal. So here is the Ravenclaw seal. I had to do one of those. I am in Ravenclaw. So I had to do a nice Ravenclaw seal. And I'm moving on now. I've wiped out my spoon again and I'm going on to Slytherin. So I'm adding some wax beads into my spoon again and letting them melt. Now, if you look in my spoon, you can see that those wax beads are not completely melted. And I will show you what happens when you don't let your beads completely melt. There's still some chunks floating on the top. So when you pour it out, you're going to have some thick chunks and it's not going to be that great of a seal. Even when you squish your stamp into it, all of that wax is not melted, so you're not going to get as much to stamp into, and it's not going to completely cover your design. So please let your wax completely melt. And then once it's on your mat, don't try to pick it up too early. You can see there with my little spatula, I kind of messed up the edge there. But the good news is wax melts. So you can take a lighter and kind of go over the edge again if you kind of mess it up, and it'll melt and kind of smooth out again. so you can kind of touch up those edges. Now, Spellbinders also has available these little paint markers, and you can take these and you can draw right over the designs on your images. So I'm taking some silver here and I'm going over this Ravenclaw seal, and I am carefully painting all of the raised areas of this stamp with the silver, and it just helps that image and design show up even better. Now, this seal looks really fantastic in real life. I know all of those small detailed lines are hard to see on camera, but I really love the look of being able to add some of this metallic paint over your wax seals. You do want to give this paint a few minutes to dry. It's a little bit sticky and wet at first, especially on the wax, which is a non-porous surface. Give it a little time to dry and then you'll be good. Now I'm moving on to some of the Christmas seals that Spellbinders has available. I wanted to show you with my Harry Potter seals at first, just a few basics of using wax seals, but let's move on to some of the Spellbinders seals. Now this one here, you can see I took a pencil and I marked the top of my seal. And this is really handy to do if you're pouring your wax right onto your project or your surface, like an envelope, or in this case, a little Christmas gift box. It's good to know which side is the top of your seal so you don't end up putting your seal on crooked or upside down. Now you can always just look at your seal before you stamp it and take note, but if you also make a little mark on the top of your seal, you can see it easily if you forget to look and make sure it's all lined up before you stamp. You can do this with a pencil, or you can take a black marker and make an even thicker mark so it's easier to see. Now, when you're adding some wax over a ribbon or over die cut pieces like I'm doing here, I would suggest putting a few extra beads into this spoon, because all of that bulk that you're trying to cover is going to take some extra wax. You can see here that I could have used an extra bead or two because the edges of my wax seal are a little rough, but I also don't mind the look of it being a little bit rustic. I think it just looks very authentic. It looks very classy, and even if it's not a perfect seal, it really takes your projects up just to the next level. So I added that right over a gift box. I think it looks fantastic. I love that seal that says do not open until December 25th. I think that one would be perfect to put on top of Christmas gifts and envelopes with gift cards in them. I'm doing another seal here. I've switched to the green color that Spellbinders has available, and just like I've done before, I'm pouring this one out into a small puddle, and I'm just going to let my wax seal sit in there, and then I'm taking my spoon while it's hot with a baby wipe and just wiping it clean. You can see it is very easy to clean when you wipe it out when it's hot, but you do have to be careful. That spoon is metal, it does get very hot, and the wax itself gets very hot. So be careful when you're working with this around kids, around pets, and around yourself. Make sure there's nothing too flammable around while you have that open flame going. You just have to be mindful of that. I do love the silicone mat that comes with this set because you can do your wax seals right on that mat, and then you can scrape them up with a spatula or just peel them up with your fingers, and you can keep your wax seals handy and then add them to projects later with some foam adhesive or liquid adhesive and make little embellishments out of them. Or you can add them right to your projects like I did with the gift box there. Either way works, but you have your options when you have this little silicone mat. Now, as I'm working on this seal, I'm letting my other wax beads sit there and melt. You can see it takes a few minutes for them to completely melt, so be patient. Just let them melt completely and work on your other wax seals while they are melting. I'm adding some more of these markers over my wax seal so that the design shows up. This one from Spellbinders is a little wreath and it says joy, and I think it's so pretty. I've been making lots of these just to have on hand. I'm going to add them to cards and envelopes and all the things for the Christmas season. Now, another thing that's really fun, and I've seen a lot of people do this out on the interwebs, people who do wax seals, is using dried flowers or dried plants or leaves, or adding some kind of real element underneath your wax seal. So I have some of this dried lavender here. I added my wax right on top of it, and then I'm going to put my seal on top of it. I was kind of finishing up my little wax seal crafting, so I blew out my candle. You always want to make sure that you blow that out when you're done with it. Don't leave your flame open there. And then I put this little For You wax stamp into my little wax puddle there. This For You stamp comes with that starter kit that I showed you in the beginning, and I love that it's just a very general sentiment that you can use on top of an envelope or on a card or on a package, whatever you want to put it on. I'm making that sentiment and that design stand out a little bit more with some of that gold marker that you can also get from Spellbinders. Now keep in mind that I have links to all of the things down in the description box, so if you want to go click on those and head on over to Spellbinders to check out their full collection of wax seals, you can do that by just visiting the description box below. You can also help me out by tapping the bell for notifications, subscribing if you haven't already, and hitting that thumbs up, and leave a comment if you want to share your experience with wax seals, or if you have any questions, or you just want to stop by and say hi. Please leave a comment. All of those things helps that algorithm so that you can see more of my videos, and if you feel this would be inspiring to someone else, it will show up in the YouTube algorithms. I don't know what kind of magic goes on there, but interacting with videos of people that you enjoy is really an easy way to help them out in the land of YouTube. Anyway, moving on, I've showed you now how you can put wax seals on packages and different things. I'm also going to show you that you could also use this wax as an embellishment. So I have this die cut piece here, which is a die from Spellbinders. These are dies made to work with the wax seals, but instead of using the die cut pieces to make little berries on this branch, I'm using the wax itself. I'm just adding a little drop on each of these little branches here to make this a little branch of berries. And you can experiment with this. You can have fun with this. It's just a tiny drop of red wax on each of these little branches. I'm just kind of letting a little drop pour out and then kind of swirling that extra back, and I'll show you in just a second here how I kind of clean up the edges. Sometimes you get some of those little strings that kind of cool on you. It's almost like using a hot glue gun, but I'm just gonna take one of my tweezers and kind of pull off some of those extra strings that are hanging on there and just clean it up a little bit. I also trimmed some of the sides there with my scissors. And now I have a branch that is embellished with the same wax that I'm using for my seals. So it's going to perfectly coordinate, and I think it just looks really pretty against this blue envelope. Now this is an envelope made with some shimmery paper that Spellbinders has available. They also have cardstock using this same kind of paper. And I've tied a red ribbon around this blue envelope. I've added in my die cut pieces, and I'm pouring my wax right on top. Now, like I mentioned earlier, I did add a few extra beads because I'm using a little bit more wax to cover all of the ribbon and the die cut pieces there, but you can pour it right on top. You can put your stamp on, let it cool, and seal everything into place with that wax itself. I'm also taking my marker like I've done in the past, and I am highlighting all of those raised edges so that you can easily read what it says and you can see what the design is on that wax seal. These markers are incredibly easy to use. When you first open them up, you do have to prime them a little bit by just pumping the tip and getting that paint flowing, and then you can just lightly and gently color in your wax seals, and it just gives it a great opaque coverage. It's very shiny and it looks amazing. So I hope this has given you some great tips on getting started with wax seals. I hope it's given you some inspiration on what you can use your seals for. If you enjoyed this video at all, please give it a like, a thumbs up, comment, subscribe, tap the bell for notifications so you never miss another video from me again, and I will see you guys next time. Have a great day, everyone. Bye.